Hi everybody, Pastor Tim here at Calvary Church here in Pueblo, and this is the sermon recap, rewind, and bonus features from our message we had this past weekend on May 9th. Now we were looking at Judges chapter 9. We're kind of coming to the end of the story of all of Gideon's influence and his children, especially Abimelech. And we saw how Abimelech already abused his power and relationship with the city of Shechem and turned the tides against all of Gideon's sons. Abimelech being one of them, he kills his 70 brothers. Massive devastation. And the city of Shechem said, hey, you know what? Let's make you king. Let's have this relationship. So Jotham, that is Gideon's last son, who was able to run away from the slaughter of his other brothers, had a prophecy and said basically Abimelech and Shechem, the city and the leaders of Shechem, there's going to become a division and you guys are going to devour one another. So the story goes on in Judges chapter 9, and eventually God steps in and brings about this division between the men of Shechem, the leadership in the city, and Abimelech. And they start having little nitpicking wars back and forth. Another guy enters the picture and turns the entire city of Shechem against Abimelech, and they just kind of go at each other. And there's some intrigue, there's some bickering, there's some slander happening on both sides, and eventually there's some spy craft happening. And eventually there is an ambush laid in wait for the city of Shechem, and this new guy, Gaul, who comes onto the scene, who has no relationship to anybody, he just wants power, and he's causing a massive division, and eventually they go to battle. And Abimelech is incredibly victorious. He uses the sleight of hand, he uses deception, and he uses ambush, and he completely destroys the city of Shechem, in fact, including killing everyone in Shechem, including all the leaders, women, and children. They're devastated. He throws salt in the city, which is a demonstration of total destruction. No one's going to be able to live there again. And Abimelech continues his warring against all the other little villages in the area, and he comes to the one village and lays siege to it. But in that strong tower of that little village, there's a lady up on the rooftop of one of the towers, and she tosses off the top of the roof of the tower a stone that hits Abimelech, and Abimelech goes, uh-oh, I'm gonna die. And so he calls his sword bearer, and the sword bearer comes forward and tells the sword bearer, you need to kill me because I don't want to be a laughing stock to the rest of history when they say a woman killed Abimelech. So the sword bearer runs him in with a sword, he dies, and Israel is free of that tyranny of Abimelech's idolatry and just wickedness, murder. And the city of Shechem is judged. And so Jotham's prophecy came true that Abimelech and Shechem would be dealt with by God. See, for a time, it looked like Abimelech and Shechem were going to be totally fine, that they were going to be best buds and that they were going to flourish in their sinfulness and their hatred of God. But God eventually brought about their destruction. He was active in bringing about their destruction and judgment. And I think we as believers can become somewhat frustrated when we look at the world and we look at the sinfulness of the world, and people thrive. People seem to have good health, long lives, great incomes, great leisure time. And we might become jealous of the wicked and the evil in this world, the people that do it, because they don't seem to get punishment. Of course, there are people who get caught and there's punishment for those type of crimes, but there's a lot of people that get away with not acknowledging God their entire life that seems to have it very, very easy. Scripture deals with that, just like Scripture deals with Abimelech. The wicked do not go unpunished. Now, I want to read in Psalm 75, and we touched about this just a little bit, but since this is bonus features, we're going to talk about it a little bit more. And I'm going to read the entirety of that psalm, Psalm 75. We give thanks to you, O God. We give thanks for your name is near. We recount your wondrous deeds. So all of a sudden it starts out by saying, as a believer, as one of God's children, we just have this constant thought on our mind of what God has done for us, and we tell the world about it. This is what God has done for me. Then it moves into verse 2. At the set time that I appointed, I will judge with equity, God says. When the earth totters and all its inhabitants, it is I who keep steady its pillars. So basically, God is saying, hey, I know that it might feel like everything is undone and everything is chaos. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing, and everything is still firmly in place. The world is not going to hell in a handbasket. It's not falling apart. It's not doom and gloom. Even though it may seem that to you, behind the scenes, I am rock steady in what I'm doing. And he continues and says, I say to the boastful, do not boast, and to the wicked, do not lift up your horn. Don't get arrogant, and do not lift up your horn on high or speak with a haughty neck. Don't get all puffy and prideful and say, hey, I'm in charge. It's all about me. No. God warns them. He says, for not from the east or from the west, and not from the wilderness comes lifting up, but it is God who executes judgment, putting down one and lifting another. For in the hand of the Lord there is a cup with foaming wine, well mixed, and he pours out from it, and the wicked of the earth shall drain it down to the dredges. But I will declare, forever I will sing praises to the God of Jacob, and all the horns of the wicked will be cut off, and all the horns of the righteous shall be lifted up. In that very quick psalm, the writer is saying, God has things under control, and God will bring about justice upon the wicked, and he will lift up those who are righteous. God will take care of it. God will pour out that judgment and justice upon them, and it will be noticeable. Now, it may not happen in this life. We understand that. It may not happen tomorrow in the headlines, the wicked have been destroyed. But God has, in the headlines of Scripture, as we saw in the book of Revelation on Sunday, God will bring about the destruction and punishment, the just and right justice and punishment upon the wicked in due time. Our responsibility, like the psalmist, is to start with worship and declaring God's greatness, and to end our days with declaring God's righteousness and his goodness. That is our purpose. That is our goal. Not to worry about the wicked, not to worry about is justice going to happen, or why is it so unfair they get all the breaks and I don't. Our purpose is to start and to end our life with praising and declaring God's greatness. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of inspiration about the message, what it was all about on Sunday. If you haven't watched that service, please go on our website as well as our YouTube channel. You can find all that information on calvarypueblo.com. And I hope that it inspires you to think some great things about God and practice great living for him. So until tomorrow, take care and God bless.